My 12-year-old son Ethan, who uses a wheelchair due to cerebral palsy, was violently shoved off his chair by a group posing as HOA cops, people pretending to have power they never earned. These fake enforcers abused their false authority to intimidate and harm, showing no mercy to a vulnerable child. But when I revealed my real badge and arrested them on the spot, everything changed in an instant. Just wait until you hear how this shocking confrontation unfolded and why justice ultimately prevailed. My son Ethan is a brave 12-year-old boy living with cerebral palsy. Since he was very young, he's relied on his wheelchair to move around. It's been his constant companion, his way to explore the world despite the challenges. We live in a peaceful suburban neighborhood, a place where neighbors know each other and kids play safely outside. But lately, something changed. A group calling themselves HOA Security started showing up regularly. They weren't official law enforcement, just a self-appointed crew decked out in fake badges and uniforms that looked eerily real. Their presence unsettled everyone, especially me, but I hoped it was just harmless posturing. One sunny afternoon, Ethan was outside, sitting quietly in our driveway. He was soaking in the warmth, smiling softly as the sun touched his face. There was no harm, no disturbance, just a peaceful moment between a boy and the day. Then, without any warning, those fake officers pulled up in a beat-up truck, stepping out with an air of authority that didn't belong to them. Suddenly, one of them reached out and shoved Ethan hard. The force knocked him right out of his wheelchair, sending him crashing onto the hard concrete. Time seemed to freeze. I stood there, stunned, unable to process what I'd just seen. The sound of his body hitting the ground echoed in my ears. My heart dropped, then surged with a powerful wave of anger and disbelief. How could anyone be so cruel? How could they treat my son, my child, who already faces so much every day, with such callousness? My legs moved on their own as I rushed toward him, fury burning in my chest. The shock slammed into me like a freight train. But beneath it all was one clear truth. I would not let this injustice stand. Ethan lay on the concrete, tears streaming down his face, his small body trembling from the shock and pain. I could see the fear in his eyes, not just from the fall, but from the cruel way those fake officers treated him. Instead of helping, they smirked and laughed, their voices cold and dismissive. One of them sneered, claiming Ethan was blocking the sidewalk and disrupting the peace. But anyone with eyes could see that wasn't true. Ethan wasn't anywhere near the sidewalk. He was simply sitting in the driveway, enjoying a moment of calm. It was clear they were just searching for any excuse to assert control, to intimidate. Watching my son humiliated like that, vulnerable and hurt, tore me apart inside. It was like a punch to the gut, the kind of pain that cuts deeper than physical wounds. A mix of helplessness and fury swirled inside me. How could they be so heartless? How could they justify this cruelty with empty words and false authority? The weight of it all pressed down hard, but then, through the haze of anger and pain, I remembered who I was, my own badge, my own authority. I'm Detective Mark Reynolds, assigned to the county sheriff's department. These imposters had no idea who they were dealing with. The atmosphere shifted, heavy with tension. They thought they could bully my family and the neighborhood with their lies and threats. They didn't realize that by crossing this line, they had awakened something far stronger. A storm ready to break loose. Taking a deep breath to steady myself, I calmly reached into my pocket and flashed my real badge. The moment their eyes landed on it, I saw the surprise ripple across their faces. Disbelief, fear, confusion. "You're under arrest for impersonating law enforcement and assault," I stated firmly, my voice steady and clear. There was no room for argument. They scrambled to talk their way out, throwing out excuses and threats, but I wasn't having any of it. I called for backup, making sure the situation was controlled and that no one could slip away. All the while, I knelt beside Ethan, who was still shaken but starting to breathe easier now that he saw I was in charge. His eyes met mine, and I promised him silently that no harm would come to him again. Slowly, neighbors began to emerge from their homes, drawn by the commotion. Some pulled out their phones, quietly recording the scene unfolding before them. The false confidence of those fake HOA officers evaporated as they realized their game was over. This was justice in action. The truth exposed, the bullies held accountable. In that moment, a powerful feeling of hope swelled inside me. Not just hope for Ethan's safety, but for our entire community. We had taken a stand, making it clear that corruption, intimidation, and cruelty would never be tolerated here. The balance had shifted, and justice was winning. The sound of real sirens filled the air as official deputies arrived on the scene. They quickly took control, carefully processing the arrests of the fake HOA enforcers. These imposters faced serious charges: assault, impersonation, and more. Justice was no longer just a promise. It was being carried out in full view of the neighborhood that had suffered under their threats for too long. Meanwhile, Ethan was gently checked over by medical personnel, his brave little face softening into a tired but genuine smile. The neighbors, who had witnessed too many moments of intimidation, began to come forward with their own stories of harassment and fear that finally found a voice. Their courage joined ours, weaving a powerful fabric of community strength. Watching my son regain a sense of safety, seeing him laugh and relax in the warmth of familiar faces, made every painful moment worthwhile. This ordeal reminded me, and everyone watching, that standing up against injustice is never in vain. Sometimes the system works precisely because people refuse to stay silent. Ethan's quiet courage, combined with my duty as a law enforcement officer, created a victory bigger than just one day or one family. It sparked a light of inspiration, proof that even when abuse wears a disguise, when cruelty hides behind false authority, it can be challenged, exposed, and defeated. And that hope, that resolve, can ripple out, encouraging others to stand tall, speak out, and fight for what is right.